Okay. So I really want to talk about our lovely senator or congresswoman. Sorry. Yeah, our lovely representative from the 5th District of Minnesota, Ilhan Omar. So I don't know if anybody is aware of this at this point. Probably a lot of people are, and who knows exactly what's come out since then. But like the Imam of Peace on Twitter, I've got his name right here. It's Mohammed Khalib. That's something along those lines. I'm probably butchering the shit out of it, but he has come out and talking about Ilhan Omar potentially being a Qatari asset. Bought and paid for. That's a quote. You can take that to the bank.
The crown jewel.
Yeah, no, right? So apparently this Alan Bender gentleman, this very, very wealthy, connected with the Middle East Canadian businessman, who I literally know absolutely nothing about. So I'm going to ask my Google guy to please take a look at that while we... Alan Bender. So this guy, Alan Bender, apparently he has got... Tyler. Who I love and respect, and couldn't do this without.
And you didn't really introduce anyone. You didn't do an introduction. You just got right into it. We didn't even.
All right, this is gonna be.
You have a guest here today. Yeah. We have a very important topic.
Matt's not a guest. He's one of my co-hosts.
Hello.
People know. Okay. People will know. But I'm JP, obviously. This is Matt Ferguson. Matt the Man Ferguson. I'll let him do his own introduction. I'm sorry.
What's up? I'm Matt.
That was good. All right, so moving back, and Tyler, obviously the beautiful mind behind all of the everything that you. Well, not no. Okay, I'm giving him way too much credit. He's like the guy that does the sound and the Google looking up stuff, and he makes this.
I'm the guy in the chair.
He runs this. He's the guy. There you go.
He's got all the screens.
He's the Jamie.
Yeah.
He's the Jamie to my Joe. Okay, so what was I talking about? Okay, so Alan Bender was deposed.
Pull that shit up, young Jamie.
Yeah, so he was deposed by a Florida court who is going through with a federal investigation into the younger brother of the Emir of Qatar, Emir being the king of Qatar. So this younger brother is being accused of having his American bodyguard try to kill other American citizens. God only knows why. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. He seems kind of like one of those like overly violently indulgent royal type people, but I don't know anything about the guy. So
I think he's like a slumlord or some shit.
Obviously,
I don't fucking know.
Like look
like,
at that.
What?
I mean, that's kind of but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like this, the charges are a little ridiculous. But anyway, so
see anything on your screen?
Yeah, for sure. So like there's a federal subpoena that went out for 4 people, the ambassador of Qatar in DC, the CIO of Qatar, and the right hand of the Emir of Qatar. I'm not going to try to pronounce any other names because I'm pretty sure when I was listening to it and I wrote it down, I just misspelled the shit out of it because, and I'm not, like that's on me. Like I'm culturally ignorant and I apologize for that. However,
it's out there. You got to duck go it. Don't Google that shit. You won't find shit on Google. You got to duck go it. Shout out.
Dude, I got called. So there's a hashtag going on for this. Quick pause. Tick sidebar on this. There's a hashtag going out for this investigate Ilhan. Last time I checked, it was like 8,000 some odd tweets. So I mean, like it was definitely like trending for me in my little echo chamber on Twitter.
You just said you just gave me a name.
It's like what's his name?
Alan Bender.
Alan Bender,
yeah, that's who I want. I just want to know who
Alan Bender, Canadian businessman.
Yeah, he's a Canadian businessman.
He's got I was on his Wikipedia page for like 30 seconds today. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, well, we're gonna circle back to Mr. Bender. So
he's the guy. He's one of the subpoenas.
He's the only one that showed up.
He showed up
for his subpoena.
He doesn't give a shit. He's Canadian. He's friends with Justin Trudeau. That's his thing. He's friends with Justin Trudeau. He's just a rich liberal in Canada that has a lot of experience with, like, I don't know how, but he has a lot of experience with, like, royal families.
That's my whole
Like,
thing. I'm like,
he
who
brokered, like, a Saudi Arabian feud in 2011.
Yeah, who is this guy?
I don't know. Like, I don't know why. Like, why he is this person. Like, I don't know who he is, but that's what he's done. Like, he's well connected in all these royal families. And he's like, they respect him, they bring him in, he settles things for them. Like, he's like the judge.
It's so weird to actually think that, like, the hierarchy of, like, the Eastern culture would want some Western capitalist in there to be, like, the mediator between two potential.
Yeah, it's weird. And, like, he definitely, like, the Qataris don't like him now because of this. But I don't think he gives a shit. I think he thinks they're wrong.
They are wrong.
And he wanted to tell them.
Dude.
And he's like, yeah, like, this is fucking bullshit. Like,
Qatar is a bad place.
I think, yeah, I think that's why he did it. I don't think he gives a shit. He doesn't give a shit about Ilhan. He doesn't give a shit about, like, American politics. He's a rich Canadian. He's friends with Trudeau. That's what he's about.
Yeah, no. And
so he was honest. He testified this, and
so
boom.
Yeah. So he was basically testifying that, like, she is, like, this bought and paid for asset in the House of Representatives, who's feeding God only knows what kind of information. I don't know what kind of information, like, she's privy to.
I think it was information on. I don't know. I don't want to say.
I know that she was, like, the only Democrat that didn't agree to sanctions on Turkey.
That's right.
She's literally the only one. I don't, coincidence? Probably. But, I mean,
I don't know.
And I mean, like, so for me, like, I kind of think, like, I've always kind of thought
they let that one slide, man. They let that one slide.
She's had, like, a serious agenda ever since she's got in there. I mean, like, I'm not a pro-Israel guy, don't get me wrong, but not, like, she is, like, she takes, like, the anti-Israel, her and Rashida Tlaib, who was also mentioned in the video.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, but I'll get to that in a second.
To your care and shit.
I know. So, like, I honestly think that the like, the message that she's been, like, pumping out ever since she's got in there has been insanely hostile.
Yeah. It's been very obviously, like, pro other countries over us. Like, I get it, like, if you want to boil it down to, like, the simplest,
and that's kind of, like, the part that's, like, yeah, no, it's super weird to me because Tyler, my thing sounds kind of echoey. All right, anyway, what was I talking about? Okay, so Ilhan Omar has done not a goddamn thing for Minnesota since she's got in there. I mean, like, I never hear her tweeting about Minnesota. I never hear her talking about what kind of issues are going on in Minnesota. What kind of issues are going on in Minnesota?
I don't fucking know. Like, opioids, probably? Like the rest of the Midwest?
That sounds about right.
I don't know. Do they have that shit?
I can imagine everybody's got it.
But
I mean, like, so it's just been...
Well, the crazy thing is that community was formed by Barack Obama taking in Somalian refugees, like, early in his term. And he just, it wasn't, he just placed them there. Like, there was no vote on it. They didn't ask Minnesota, they just did it.
No, but, I mean, like, this is the main issue with trying to integrate into, like, integrate, like, somebody who is, like, substantially different, like, culture-wise, into your, like, system of government. Somebody who comes from a completely different system of government into your system. Like, I get it, like, she's a refugee, she believes in democracy. Like, see, here's my thing. if you really, really, really loved America, like you're this immigrant, you come over to America because you love and you claw your way from, immigrant from Somalia to a to a United States congresswoman, you are, like I would imagine that you really like America, like you really believe in the things that like America is doing and you want to get in there and support it. It's like, no, it's like the exact opposite. It's like, oh, I really don't like the things that America is doing, so I'm going to work my way into power and then try to.
Yeah. I have a theory. It's 100% speculation. 100% speculation. It is 2 data points, and I'm making a connection that only exists because I thought about it. But I think it's interesting. Qatar described Ilhan as their crown jewel, right?
Right.
That whole scenario that you just described, from start to finish, of like, from Somalia to a U.S. representative. If she was a Qatar, like a Qatari agent from the get-go, and it was just like a low level, like just like like every spy agency has like low level like people on the streets.
She does speak really good English.
Yeah, like where they want them to be, not like fucking everywhere all over the world, but like I don't know, maybe they do.
Qatar is really small, but I imagine they got a lot of money. So
yeah, but that's their thing in the Middle East. They've been meddling in politics for years, and that's why like Saudi Arabia has an embargo against them. Like they're threatening to turn them into an island. Good. Like they don't like them because they fuck with just like everyone. They just fuck with everyone. That's how they're rich.
I was about to say, and I know Saudi Arabia probably likes the idea of being like the strongest absolute monarchy in the Middle East.
But they're like a fucking pain in the ass. Like,
of course.
All the other Middle Eastern countries like fucking agree. They're like, these guys are fucking assholes. Like we all support this thing. It would be good. Cut them the fuck off.
Iran kind of likes them apparently.
Iran's like bad though.
Iran. We
they're with all the bad stuff.
Yeah, like,
they got a lot of bad stuff going on. Why do you think the $100 billion went there?
Dude, have you been like, oh my god? I'll get to that later. Yeah. So keep going.
But if you're like a low-level Qatari agent on the ground, and you're just like, and your mission is like you're a refugee into America, like go
right,
and then you make your way all the way up to a representative, councilwoman here, like years, and you're their crown jewel, like like that's that, like why would you be described a crown jewel? Like that's such like a royal, I don't know. Like the most precious thing,
No, I
superstar.
I don't
superstar status in spy world.
I don't trust it at all. I don't know. You've got 2 people now on Twitter, and this you can go on Twitter and look this up. Just go to Imam of Peace's YouTube or Twitter handle at Imam of Peace. There's some other guy that's come out whose name I'm also not going to try to pronounce just to not be disrespectful.
United Kingdom doctor.
Yeah, like he posted like a picture of him with like all of these Qatari officials, these people, members of the Qatar royal family. Like him obviously like he's close to what's going on in Qatar. At the very least, like I can only imagine Qatar is not going to let just anybody next to the royal family. Right? I mean, like
It's like fucking a Me Too movement about Qatar. Like people are just like, fuck these guys. Yeah, fuck them.
People should have been saying that for years. They bought their 2022 fucking World Cup that they're hosting.
Yeah,
dude, that fucking place, it gets like up to like 112 degrees up in that motherfucking place, man. And not to mention, it's like a modern day slave state. You get to Qatar you're a migrant worker. You get to Qatar on some sort of contracting job that you're working. So you're like, oh, so I'm just some, Middle Eastern contract worker working on building some sort of big infrastructure around the Middle East because they love building big infrastructure and they have a lot of money and able to do it. So Qatar's been rapidly expanding and, building all sorts of big buildings, stadiums, like all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been importing a shit ton of migrant workers in order to do that. So the way that it works over in Qatar is you, migrant worker, gets to Qatar. They take your passport, and you basically get your passport back at the end of your contract.
And like they pay you.
Oh
some
yeah,
money.
yeah. No, you get paid.
Yeah.
While you're over there for sure. Like I'm not denying that you get paid, right? You're still like a worker and all that stuff. However, you're not allowed to leave. You can't quit.
So like,
And the working conditions are bad, like
Yeah.
really bad. And that's the problem. Like look up sometime. Like if young Tyler was here, I would get him to do it. But like if there was there's a picture of like the migrant worker deaths associated with construction projects in Qatar as opposed to like other places around the world. Like the next closest one is like Russia, and it's so small in comparison.
jeez.
Yeah, but like since like 2010, I know that the number has definitely gone up since then, but like since 2010, it's been upwards of 1,200 migrant worker deaths. So in the last 10 years, one can only imagine by the time 2022 rolls around, like because I don't know what the exact number is right now.
Were they the ones that got the FIFA?
Yeah, 2022. Yeah, the one that they bought, the one that everybody was super pissed about. Yeah.
Oh shit.
And the soccer players are like, I don't want to go play soccer in 112-degree fucking heat.
Yeah. Yeah, and the alternative is to like fuck up the whole season, and they like I don't know, and they did.
They didn't do it. No, they didn't do it. Yeah, obviously they're going to Qatar. It's fucking no, dude. FIFA's bought and sold a long time ago.
Oh man,
FIFA, in my opinion, is like one of the most corrupt organizations in the entire world.
who's invested in who's the spooky boy behind FIFA? Like who's the investors and shit?
A shit ton of people.
Soros and FIFA?
Probably not.
No.
Probably not. I don't know. FIFA.
It's a bunch of European boys. I know that.
I know that they just had like a house cleaning. Tyler, what do you got in there?
Cinnamon.
Trying to share one of those cinnamon buns? Maybe just one?
In a minute.
That's fair. That's fair.
So like I know that they just had like a major house cleaning and whatnot when it came to a lot of the people over like they're like top brass.
Who, the FIFA people?
Yeah, the FIFA dudes.
Yeah, the FBI fucked them up. And in that investigation is where Chris Steele became a credible source.
From the FIFA stuff?
Mm-hmm. He worked with the FBI and was a credible source. He reported on the FIFA scandal, and that's why he was used for like the dossier, because if you've worked with them before and it's led to prosecution, then you can you're more credible as like a witness for future cases because you're a good source.
We'll have so like what's the word on that?
Hold on. Yeah.
Because like I know that is he gonna testify?
He got interviewed. I'm pretty sure he got interviewed by Bill Barr as part of like, I don't know. There's like 4 or 5 different investigations. It seems like going on about different like shit with the 2016 election. There's like the IG report it's dropping on the 9th of December. It's Inspector Horowitz.
I know I've been kind of following that one a little bit, but
yeah, so that's coming out pretty soon. So that's some exciting news on that. But yeah, the whole thing is that like the Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign for political purposes, just in order to win an election, to help Hillary. She paid for the Steele dossier, so because he's a credible witness, it would sell better. And yeah.
Well, because I saw you talking about the Bongino.
Did you watch that?
No, I didn't see it yet. But I saw a bunch of people like posting shit on Twitter.
Yeah. He's a great podcast to listen to because he cites like all his shit. And like you can go check it. It's legit. I've never not seen something that wasn't legit that he's said.
Just nobody ever talks about it.
Wow.
That's like the main thing. It's like
and he's just like boom 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 boom.
Yeah, and
it's all connected.
I would say he's a fast talker. Charlie's talking about it, he's like, I watched Bongino on like 1.25 and I'm like, what? Yeah. Like, folks, let me tell you, it's going to be crazy. Oh my God, folks, are you listening to me? Oh my God, the fucking liberals crying all the time. Like, news, obviously, in between the nonsense.
No, that is aggressive.
That's what I'm thinking. He's got, like, I love him to death, but he's got such a square head.
Yeah.
Like, dude, and I say that knowing full well that he could kill the shit out of me. It wouldn't even be an effort for the man. He's probably twice my age, and he probably, he can.
Okay. Here's the thing. What do you think people that in the Secret Service, whose job it is to like literally like jump in front of the president and take a bullet, what do you think those guys look like? Like, what do you think kind of person wants to do that shit? They got square heads. They can also be smart, but...
Oh, he's incredibly smart. I'm not going to take that away from him.
He was an NYPD cop, dude. He's like a New York kid.
Oh, I saw his thing the other day when he was talking about... And I'm like, you see what I'm talking about, though? You see what I'm saying? It's just so perfectly rectangular prism-like.
So, here's a fun story. JP's brother... just got married. Charlie got married recently, and I was the best man, and I had to give a speech. And in that speech, I said that his mom, who is a redhead, sparked my passion for redheads, and that's why I married my wife. And it got away with it, and it killed. It fucking killed.
Like when my dad went up talking to Sam, like right after.
My parents loved it.
Kind of like
my parents loved it. They thought it was so fucking funny.
So what was in this like latest Bongino episode? Like, what did he talk about exactly?
He talked about the lawyer. Did you see the CNN like article? And it was like a Washington Post article. They like reported it. Like everyone, like they all reported it. That the FBI lawyer is under criminal investigation for falsifying evidence in the Carter Page
Oh my
FISA.
God.
It was like the second FISA renewal, I believe. It's either first or second.
I remember like when Carter Page like was first getting in trouble over this stuff. Oh my God. Yeah, I shit on him so hard, dude. I was like, this dude is so guilty.
So here's the theory.
Doug at the pizza place was right the whole time.
Here's the theory. Because the day he falsified the evidence, they know the day. And it was, I believe it was April 6th. I don't know the exact dates, but I know it was like one day like before the other day. I think it was April 6th. That he like they were fighting for like this next FISA renewal and they couldn't get it. And last minute, like Carter Page was cooperating with the investigation, and Carter Page sent an email in like with just like, here's my cooperation, like here's my response to your questions. And the theory is that he falsified that information that just came in and stuck it in, because every time you renew a FISA, you need new information in order to justify the renewal. Because if you get a first FISA. It lasts 3 months. You investigate. You don't find anything. You don't get to, like I'm accusing JP of being a Russian agent. I'm investigating you. I spy on you for 3 months. Wiretap you, spy on you. If I don't find anything, if I don't find any new things, then I don't get to spy on you again. I have to go and prove it again 3 months later, and I have to do that over and over and over again every time I want to.
Yeah, I mean that sounds fair, right?
And that's the process to spy on American citizens. Foreign people we'll just spy on. We don't give a shit. But American citizens have to go through that process.
Unless it's coming through like the Patriot Act or one of those like greater,
all through that. It has to pass through that. The investigation, if the FBI wants to do that, it has to go through that.
Oh, but like is that just like the FBI? Like what about like the NSA?
The NSA collects the data. The FISA also grants access to their like metadata.
Okay, so like so they have it just stored away somewhere.
The NSA data, NSA database is guarded.
In order to get it, you
have to go through the courts in order to get the information.
All right, that's respectable. Hopefully, that's what happens every single time. I mean, I'm fairly certain it's probably not, but
it's not. But that's the intent. That's
right,
the intent. That's how it's
okay.
supposed
No,
to be set up.
I like that. That's nice.
It's not like there's abuses. Like there's people are gonna figure. Like what? There's always gonna be like people that like fuck shit up like that.
Oh, of course. I mean, corrupt in politics are it's like salt and pepper. You know what I mean? It's like really
every system is human made, therefore flawed and corruptible.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
Well, yeah, exactly. Very well said, Tyler. I mean, like I think that like when you get down to the idea that like I mean though like I do think. Like, and I was talking about this the other day, that like when you get down to the fact where like your main issue with the system is the man-made aspect of the system, and like you either need to get over it at that point because the system's really not.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah. The system's about as good as it's probably going to get, bar a few nicks and knacks here and there. Or, like you get a new system that is less prone to man-made errors, like automate it, so to speak. And it's just the idea of, like that people like want there to be more of this just like overpowering, controlling force. Like I've been following Brett Weinstein a lot, and he keeps talking about this idea of world governance, which obviously is different than world government. I'm not trying to sound sarcastic when I say that, but like, but still, he's still preaching the idea of like one, like universal jumping off point. And that's just such a, like, you're not going to have that. That's just like the way that we're.
But how do you organize the people?
Yeah.
People need organization. Like from the get-go, it's tribe. It's every single time it's a community.
I know. And I don't know, man. Like
and every community needs to be organized. You got to organize the people. What's world governance?
No, I don't know.
Do you have laws? What happens if I kill you?
Everybody just agrees that we're. I mean, he's kind of socialisty, so it's one of those. But
how do you agree?
I don't know, and that's kind of my thing. It's just like, and I was talking to my buddy Justin about this, where I was like, because he's probably like, and I want to get him on the podcast eventually, but he's like probably the closest thing that I know to like a real life socialist.
Interesting.
He likes the idea of it. I mean, he's a weird hippy dippy kind of guy, and he's admitted to me that it's like it's not for everybody. It shouldn't be forced on everybody. It's something that like a niche group of people in the world are like accepting of, like they want it to be the way that things are, but it's not necessarily like the best way to go for like large scale groups of people.
So he just wants like the right to have a socialist government.
He wouldn't mind.
He wants there to like he would be happy if
give him like a state the size of Qatar.
Yeah,
and
like
then
go
make
make
that
like
a socialist government.
go carve out a little piece of a country, give it to them, and call it socialist land.
Yeah,
And they can all go live there,
yeah,
and they can
all-
have pure socialism. And and it would be like his version of pure socialism.
exactly.
Yeah, he'd be like, okay, like yeah, sure. People have the right to vote for it.
I mean, but like one of the
It's a legitimate platform. I just think it's a bad one.
well, and that was kind of
But
like
I
what I was
respect
talking to
it.
him about. I was like, dude, it kind of would it be stymie or stifles? Stifles, I think. Yeah, stifles creativity. It wouldn't
does.
really. I mean, he was like, well, I disagree. Like I think that people who are going to paint and play music and do stuff like that, they're always going to do that, no matter what job the government mandates that they work. And I'm like, okay, I will agree with you on that. But not all creative people make music or paint. Like what about architects? What about, like engineers? What about, what we're doing? What about those people? Like how are they able to spread their creative wings when they're not, like when the government is basically telling you that you have to do this? Like
Yeah.
if you're, like if you work as like a primary cog in the system, like they're not gonna let you just step down, like from that position. You know what I mean? Like if we went back to like Soviet Russia, and you're talking about like one of those, let's just take any poor jamoke from like the Chernobyl complex that went nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
Like are they even allowed to quit their job? Like could they just basically say fuck this and I'm leaving, like I don't want to do this anymore? What happens? They probably get killed. Can only imagine. I mean, but yeah, so it's, to me it's like I can't believe that you would want this, because it sounds nice when you think about like the benefit side of it, where you're like, okay, we get universal health care, we all have a place to live, we all make sure that we eat, we all get to survive. But like our resources on the planet are nowhere near to the point of scarcity where we would even need to start like thinking like that as a society, or like as a global society. Or like you're not even thinking about like what the price you have to pay in order to do that would be. It's going to be like, oh, well, I have to do these types of jobs. We have to make sure that somebody is doing this. This has to make sure that this is done. Like I am going to work 10 times harder than that fucking guy over there, and we're going to be compensated for the exact same thing. Like my job is incredibly crucial to the functioning of society. This guy's job is not. And we're going to be compensated the same thing. That has to be a social agreement that you agree to. I mean, like, look at Cuba. You've got all of these doctors not doctoring and driving cabs around because they don't want, because they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
To fucking, they're not getting paid to doctor.
Some jobs are harder than other jobs.
No, and that was my whole thing.
Those people who do the hard job should get paid more.
No, I agree 100%, and that was like my main argument to him when he was talking to me about quantifying human life, and I'm just like, if you think that healthcare is a human right, like that is completely based on like your doctor. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a doctor that's not going to treat somebody, like that's in trouble. But they're not going to continue to treat people that are in trouble if they're not being compensated for it. Just because they have the skills doesn't mean that they're just going to give them away for free.
There's not enough doctors.
They spent
for
a
how
good
many
portion
people
of
are
their
sick.
life. They spent a good portion of their life in school learning how to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're like your life is in people's hands, like you need to be held to some sort
of dollars in debt.
Yeah, like you need to be held to some sort of higher, and not to mention you work them like dogs. Everybody in the medical field, I imagine, just gets worked like dogs.
12-hour shifts.
Yeah, fuck that.
16. You're on call all night.
For people who are definitely, like short-tempered, potentially ungrateful. I mean, obviously, there's probably a shit ton of really grateful.
They're
and
assholes,
whatnot, but,
man.
like,
That's why they're not assholes because they're some of them are assholes because they're assholes. But a lot of them are assholes because they're fucking grumpy all the time.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know, that's just how they live life, is just like pissed off.
No, I mean, like, it's, I don't, like, AOC posted a video not too terribly long ago about, like, free healthcare and stuff, and she's like, you're like, these are human rights. And I'm just like, you're not gonna get somebody, you know, like, you're not gonna get, like, a wide group of people to just continue to agree to that. It's just like, oh, you know, like you just said, it's like I have to work 12-hour shifts. I'm on call 24/7 or I'm on call, like, you know, 24 hours for some of these situations. So I could work 12 hours, go home, and potentially get called back in to work more. You know, like, obviously, like, you know, you watch, like, an episode of Scrubs and you hear, like, somebody make a joke about it where you, like, get in and it's just like, oh, and, you know, like, you got that one resident who's working, like, he's, like, they're on 26 hours of a shift right now, and it's just like,
there's surgeons that do like 50-hour surgeries and shit, like, straight. It's like they're like fucking bananas. There's not that many of them that do that, but there's people that can fucking do that shit. And if you can do that shit,
I think those are usually like experimental surgeries.
Still,
it's
50 hours. Yeah, 50 hours straight is insane. To even
there's like
think
there's
about.
there's a photo of like a 26-hour like heart transplant or
No,
something.
I mean,
It's
no.
like the doctor's like passed out like in the operating room.
That's what I'm saying. Like you need to think about like women who go into fucking labor. It's like, oh, you know, like, oh, we're rounding around hour 36 of labor.
Yeah.
Or some nonsense like that where it's just like, you know, like, oh, you're in labor for like 2 straight days damn near. You know, like before it's like, oh, we got to do this because, you know, like for whatever reason you can't do a C-section or whatever. I was just like, even the idea of working one single thing, like if you were in labor for like 10 hours, which I think sounds about normal, but maybe that's really long. I don't know.
I think that's long, but it's not unheard of.
But the idea that, you know, like you could be, you know, just straight up like, okay, here we go. You know, like we're doing this thing, you know, like, all right, you know, like, all right, we got to make sure we're, you know, like this very, very, very delicate thing for 10 plus hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, I mean, shit, dude. It's not that unheard of for, you know, like somebody who's doing that to expect to be compensated a little bit better than the guy that's making the food across the street.
Why would you want to do that if it wasn't your job? If it's your job, like, yeah,
I mean,
like,
you want to do it because you want to do it.
Yeah,
That's fair, but in the society
but at the
that
same
we
time,
have,
you want to live a comfortable life.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have a happy and comfortable life, and whatever that means to you, that's what you're going for.
if we lived in a world where there was like no things, when I say things, I mean just like random accessories to life, like extra shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like just toys and just nonsense to spend your money on. Big house, you know, shit like that. And we only were running on, you know, like we just didn't have the want or the desire for extra amenities in our life. Then yeah, I mean, like I think socialism could probably work just fine because it's just like, oh, the only reason that I am, you know, doing what I'm doing is because this is what I want to do. You know, I love what I'm doing.
Well, and that's a very Star Trek-esque society, you know, after
they are post-scarcity. They can have whatever they want. We're talking about like going without.
Can absolutely work post-scarcity.
Oh, yeah. If you're post-scarcity where you're to the point where you're like, oh, I don't really care about what we've... Or, you know, like it really doesn't even matter what we've got. We can materialize whatever we want.
Yeah, like everyone's got a little bracelet. You get slapped on from birth, and you just get what you want. It's the bracelet. It gets what you want.
Yeah, so then at that point, the only people who are going to be doing, you know, any kind of job is going to be like, oh, you know, like this is what I would like to do.
Yeah.
You know, and especially like, you know, if you're some sort of gigantic intergalactic society, then
you don't have to do anything.
It would be,
you could play Modern Warfare all day long. Like, because no one needs anything. Everyone has everything they want all the time.
Yeah, so the only people that are the only people that are going to do stuff are going to do it because they want, you know?
Yeah.
It's the world that Yang wants everybody to live in, where it's like we, you know, where everybody just sits around all day and creates beautiful artwork all day. And, you know, like artwork in every sense of the word, like music and art and content of any kind. You know, some nonsense along those lines. But I mean, like, it's I still think that, you know, I mean, because that's obviously not going to happen. You know, that's not a thing that we're at the very least going to see.
With the current laws of physics now. But unless you're in like some VR fucking Matrix shit, I guess there's the theory for that.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Or are we in a simulation?
Elon Musk thinks we're in a simulation.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if we are, though.
He said he had some rule with his
take.
brother. I forget what the Rogan when he talked about it on Rogan, but he said they had him and his brother have some rule that whenever it comes up in conversation, they have to do something. And if the other one doesn't do it, it's like an immediate tip that there's a glitch in the Matrix or some shit.
Yeah, I remember seeing that too. It's like, I don't know. Like, does realizing it change anything? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, you know, if you can, like, realize, like, oh my gosh, we're in a simulation. Like, wow. Like, what happens? What happens when you, like, know? Like, if you think it's true, then there's a way for it to be proven to be true to you.
Okay, so, like,
do you get, like, ejected from your pod?
So here's my kind of like interpretation of it. Like, if we are a simulation, if this is a simulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, you know, like, is it like the Matrix where it's like every single human being that you see walking around for the most part is like plugged into some fucking machine? You know, like in some other reality?
I think if it is a simulation, it's more like Rick's car battery. It's more like this is the entire expanse of the universe and every single minutia of its interactions and exploitations have been all intricately designed by, you know, a far, 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 far more advanced being.
But Rick's car battery wasn't intricately designed like that. He just threw together all the necessary materials to make a universe, and then he just waited for life to appear in the universe. And then he like superimposed, then he like gave that life all of the tools that it needed to like do what he needed them to do. So
that's what I mean.
Well, like that, but I mean, like
you control the inputs of the experiment to, you know, have what you want, which ended up for Rick being, you know, a life-bearing planet. But I don't think.
But so that kind of goes back to my.
So then, okay. So what if? What are we gonna do? Go fight him or something?
Well, no, that's why I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's
like who the fuck
right.
cares?
Like, what's the point? Like, what is any of us gonna do about it?
Yeah. Like, okay.
So I mean, like,
I think that's what upsets people is they can't do anything about it.
Or maybe I am some super important galactic person, and they've got me in a room somewhere, and they're trying to figure out at what point in time in my life I became so great. Something along those lines. Or you know, it doesn't matter. You know, like whoever's behind the eyeballs of you. Because I imagine all of you see things through your own eyes. I can only assume this, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's
a trippy thought.
It's like consciousness. You know, they say if you smoke DMT with other people, you can share consciousness. And see the same things in another dimension.
I think you just get so blasted that you think that you see these things.
But groups of people have done it together and said they saw each other in there and said they all talked to the same thing and described the same exact experience.
Well, DMT is
40 people.
DMT is
they
really
talk about
weird.
it on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, DMT is like really, really weird though. Like I've blasted off. Like blasting off is like some absolute next level shit. Like. You think that you've been fucked up.
Have you done it?
Yeah, I've done it, dude. Like the best way to do it, like you want a guaranteed blast off. I've blasted off twice. Guaranteed way to do it. You take a banger or like a hot nail from like a dab rig. You get that bitch nice and hot, like red hot, right? And then with no weed or anything like that, you just take your little rocks of DMT, you throw that right on that red hot nail, and you just vape that motherfucking shit. And it's like immediate. It's just like a light clicks off, and like I was sitting here watching the TV. Adventure Time was on the TV. We got the thing all heated up. I'm sitting here holding it. Schmidt comes and fucking drops the rock on there. I smoke it, and the first thing I remember is everything immediately turned purple, and I mean like purple. It's unexplainable how purple it was. It was one of those times, whoa, and I like leaned back, and the craziest thing was the TV went with my eyes.
So it stayed in like the
so
center
yeah,
of
it
your
stayed
vision?
right in the center of my vision, but
Okay.
I definitely like
Just
leaned
like
back.
permanence of vision went crazy.
And this is when it started getting like this is like the shit that started getting like really, really weird. The ceiling started like falling away like puzzle pieces. Not like in the shape of puzzle pieces, mind you, but just kind of like jagged edges, just kind of like, like falling away like one at a time, leaving these like weird holes. And then it was black with the TV screen still going. And then the TV was something different, not Adventure Time. And I like shot into the TV, and everything was like rainbows, just like all around. And there was some sort of weird silhouetted shape thing that I was talking to that had like weird sparkly gem eyes. And I don't remember.
What were you talking about?
I don't remember anything that was said. But what I do remember was when I was like coming out of it, the thing that was like crazy was that the only person that was talking in the room next to me was Matt Morris. Like literally the only person in the room that was talking was Matt Morris. There was like 6 people in the room, but Matt was the only one talking. And it sounded like there was like 20 people all around me just going like, okay. And I came out just like, yeah. And Matt was like, calm the fuck down. And I was like, and it was one of those things just immediately just kind of snap back in. You're just like,
Snap back to
what
reality.
the fuck? Like, yeah, it's unexplainable, really. I mean, people try to explain it. I think people like Rogan and people like Rogan do a really good job of explaining it. But you ever seen?
I think that's what fascinates me the most about it is the thing you communicated with.
It's not necessarily always something to communicate with, though. Like, because you can do like small amounts. Because okay, so there's regular, like you put it on a bowl, and you can blast off like this, but it's just I've never had good luck with it. Like you put a little bit on a bowl, and then you sit there and you smoke that.
You probably just like have to have enough.
It's
less efficient.
That makes things turn different colors. That's like the farthest I've ever gotten with smoking on a bowl. Like I would see different weird patterns and crazy different. And time like slows down, like super hardcore for like the next couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. You see just all kinds of crazy shapes and colors and stuff on stuff, but you're still where you are. You're still conscious of where you are. You're talking about. You know what I mean? You're not gone.
Okay.
But then there's like blast off, where like I could be sitting here going like Matt,
and I'm just like
Matt. You'd be like.
I'm just like third eye.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't be there. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. You'd basically be asleep. From my point of view, you'd be like asleep with your eyes wide, the shit open.
Like drooling.
Yeah, probably.
Shit.
Yeah, just kind of like
T-Rex.
But you would not like. Nobody would be able.
Yeah.
Nobody would be home down here to communicate with me.
I'm somewhere else.
Yeah, your mind is still very active. And that's the crazy thing because you come back like, well, I remember where I went, I remember what we did, you may not remember like some of the super minor details of what was done, but like, you remember it. It's super weird. It's impossible to explain. Recommend everybody to do it. It's It's amazing. It's a life-changing experience.
It's what all the shaman cultures were all about.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's super easy to do, dude. Just fucking
all those
just
old
go
fucking jungle shaman shit.
Just go to Peru.
Ayahuasca.
We could do
DMT.
it now. We could do it now. We could go to fucking Peru and go on a spirit walk.
Yeah.
That's
They
how
do
do you
it.
how you
That's their
think
thing.
how do you think fucking I mean I'm sure he's done it in other ways, but I was like, how do you think like people like Rogan and all those dudes, like how do you think that people do extensive research on like DMT? You need ayahuasca in order to do like any sort of extensive like smoking. It's not going to get you jack shit.
No,
like
ayahuasca's like a fucking like edible. DMT gets you high for like 15 minutes or so.
If that.
Ayahuasca is like a couple hours.
I've heard it makes you shit
you're just
your
like,
pants.
yeah, you're just like blasting off into space.
I've heard it makes you shit your pants. And like I was talking to my buddy Brian, and he was like, "You'd be cool shitting your pants." I'm like,
So,
bro,
Dude,
100%.
dude, I think that if Michael Stevens shit his pants, I think he'd just be honest about it and be like, by the way, while I was on ayahuasca, I shit my pants. Like that's just apparently one of the interesting effects of being really fucking high.
Oh, you just lose.
If that was
like,
true, I honest to God feel like we would have
Yeah,
seen that
I
on the
mean,
minefield.
I've
What it probably
heard it.
was
I've heard it from other people saying that they've done it though. And it's just like why. One of those.
Then I don't think it's everyone.
Well, yeah, obviously it's not everyone. It's like they say it's like, oh, you evacuate your bowels when you die, and it's like I'm sure that there have been thousands of people who have died where it's just like, you know what, I just happened to have took a shit like 20 minutes before they killed me. Nothing in the tank to evacuate. Sorry.
yeah.
Or maybe they're a real tight ass.
It's possible.
Like,
I mean,
I
yeah,
think it's very
everybody's
possible. It's just like at the time he had to shit.
Well, no. So like that's like the main.
you ever have to shit?
The main thing that you have
Every
to really
day.
remember here, though, is that you're going to lose like complete control of your motor functions.
It's not that it makes you poop your pants. It's that if you have to poop, just even like you're just like holding it in mildly. Like if you just know it's there, that you have bodily control over it, and then it's just like you don't have any of that because you're gone. You're somewhere else, and you just poop.
I hope that you go on a spirit walk and you just like immediately shit your pants.
Whatever.
Like you drink the ayahuasca and it just
I'll clean up. I'll take a shower.
before you even start tripping, you just shit yourself.
Dude, I have IBSD. I can do that without any drugs.
Charlie was telling me about the time that like you guys went up and sang karaoke with like out signing up for karaoke.
Yeah.
I was trying to make like heads or tails of what he was
They
talking
called
about.
Charlie. They called the name Charlie, and I told him it was him, and I signed him up for it. And it was a High School Musical song, and he didn't fucking know any of the words. So I ran up there, and I sang it, and we sang it together because he was fucked. Because I fucking lied. I don't even know why I did it. It was immediate. I was like, yeah, I put your name up there, go. And I even thought after, I was like, why did I do that? But I was drunk. They were buying me shots. It was my bachelor party. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So like, did the person whose song it was even like say anything about it?
No, they never showed up. After like the second or third time they called Charlie, I just told him. I was like, yeah, dude. Oh, yeah, that's you, dude.
Did somebody film that?
No.
Damn it, you
Fuck
bastards.
no. I think it was on Snapchat for like a day, but like it was like never like captured. So only the CIA has it.
Damn it. Can't get this corner pieces. Trying. I feel like such a fat kid.
Yeah, so that's that same night. This is a no shit story. I'm not gonna exaggerate. This dude, he was a tall, skinny, very dark black dude, dressed exactly like a cowboy.
Lil Nas?
No, yeah, like Lil Nas, but like not like a fucking like hipster way, like a fucking like straight out of like a
Red Dead?
like a Red Dead, Clint Eastwood movie fucking vibe. And he stood there against the wall with one leg up against it, with an unlit cigarette hanging out of his mouth and a cowboy hat on. and he stood there for like a fucking hour and didn't talk to anyone, didn't do anything, and he was just sipping on drinks. He'd go to the bar, get a drink, and come back. And I'm like, that's weird, whatever. Like an hour in the bar. And then, I forget the fuck his name was. It was something ridiculous. And they call this guy, and he just gets up and sings this, like, incredibly sexual rendition of, like, an old country song called Strokin'. And I looked up the song after. Like, I spent a lot of time trying to, like, Google terms to find the song that it was, and looked it up after, and it was nothing like what he did. The lyrics were the same, but he really carried that karaoke performance, and it was good. It was so good.
The worst part was like, amazing.
It was fantastic. Like, he was a really, really good singer. And then afterwards, he went back and stood in the same spot.
Clarence Carter song?
Dude, I'm
pretty sure that's it. It's like an old song.
I'm like so jealous of anybody that like lives their performance so much like that.
It was an incredible, honestly. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm so glad that dude exists and is like killing it.
Excellent.
I was into it. I was like, yeah, like people were yelling, like people were into it. It was in Nashville, and it was like I was like, oh, okay. And then people were into it, and then I got into it, and it was fun.
I mean, like, you probably make a pretty good name for yourself in Nashville doing, like, really nice, like, legit karaoke performances. I don't see why not.
His center button was unbuttoned pretty heavily, too. Like, he was, like,
he was, like, sexualizing the role, like...
Very slightly. In the way, like, casting Sean Connery would.
Sure. Dude, I don't know. Who do you think, off topic, who do you think is going to get the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in 2020? Iowa's in 3 months. Buttigieg is leading Iowa's right now in the preliminary polling. I don't see it coming. I don't see how he could possibly be leading Iowa, dude. Like, he's such a walkover, no name candidate. I'm surprised that he's like even actually starting to fight.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna drop out.
I know he's at
he
it
picked
now.
up
He's
some
like
steam.
Now he's actually like picked up some serious steam, and it's like, what?
Yeah, he's picked up some steam. He's
a child.
Yeah, he looks like. If you've ever like seen like a childhood photo of me with my buzzed hair, he looks like if you just like used like one of those age up apps on that. Like just like a round head with a buzz cut, and it's like.
You kind of look like Buttigieg a little bit. When you did that face, it was like perfect. You're just kind of like, yeah, like.
Yeah,
It's the Buttigieg face. Buttigieg.
I'm pretty sure I have.
Who's running his town right now?
He fucking is, dude. I don't fucking know. There was some scandal with the police, but that got buried.
There's no way he's running the town right now. He's out campaigning.
He's supposed to be, dude. I mean, I don't know what you do as a politician when you're campaigning.
I was just thinking that. It's just like when you like, oh, I got called back, I have to go. Like if
yeah, I don't understand how you manage both jobs.
Yeah, if like theoretically Jim Jordan was campaigning, would he have to go back? Would he have to then like give up his seat on the House Intelligence Committee? Probably, right?
I don't think so. I think your campaign, you do as much campaigning as you can, as much as your job permits you. I think this is the way, like, it's like supposed to, like, set up. Like you know, if you're busy in Congress, you have to do that shit. Like,
yeah, I imagine the laws of the land come before.
That's why they don't want to pass impeachment, because it'll go to the Senate, and Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Joe, and who's the other senator?
Bernie.
Bernie,
Klobuchar,
and Klobuchar are all senators.
Booker.
And Booker are all senators.
Did you see that? I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going. I'll talk about it in a second.
I'll wrap it up. And if it goes into the Senate and they have to go to the Senate for a trial and they cannot leave, they cannot campaign right as the primary starts. All of them. Because they're there for a trial. So it'll fuck with their own primaries, and that leaves...
Yeah, because they'd have to vote on it, wouldn't they?
Like, Tulsi and Biden.
Yeah, but they... Oh, and Tulsi...
And Buttigieg. And Yang. Those are the four left. That would, like...
And that new dude that was up there
four.
who was talking about... I forgot. I didn't even know his name. I tuned in on the world's shittiest stream on WAPO. And... God, I hate what they're doing to it. Like, it's so absolutely upsetting because, like, I can't. There was one really good Democratic debate stream so far, and I can't believe that I'm going to say this, but it was MSNBC. Do you know why? Because you could stream, because they were smart and they realized that they didn't have the proper infrastructure apparently to stream the debates properly, so they put it up on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. I could rewind stuff. I could, pause it without having to worry about it. It was always like, I mean, the quality would fade in and out, but like it was nice. It worked. Like I could go back and quote them on things that they said.
Yeah, they don't have the IT. They don't have the IT infrastructure to carry that.
I mean, I'm sure they do.
They're doing it
but
because they want people who don't normally go to their sites
exactly
to go to their sites
exactly
and start looking at more of their news.
Yeah, and so
they're hurting for business. They need customers.
Yeah, so CNN, the next debate, hosts it on the CNN website, and it was absolute balls. Like I was listening to them argue about like insane things, like giving, like when they were like talking about like what constitutes like illegal border crossing and decriminalizing all border crossing, and like the illegal immigrant like the illegal immigrant healthcare stuff. And I was just like, and they were all saying so many ridiculous things, and I wanted to quote them like by saying, actually like listening again to the things that they would say, and you couldn't because CNN had no options to rewind. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? Why? Why do you have no options to rewind? Because you know that they're saying ridiculous things and you don't want people to do that. But the next major, like, I mean, obviously people who pay for, DirecTV and shit have the option to rewind it, but I didn't.
Yeah, but then you're paying for cable.
Yeah, or Hulu Plus or something like that.
They already watch your news if they're paying for cable.
And then what was this most recent one? Like NBC? What was this most recent one? Who was it? NBC, ABC? Where's Matt Hour?
It was all women.
Yeah,
I think it was MSNBC.
It was MSNBC. And they had
Maddow.
Yeah,
Maddow.
And they had an exclusive stream deal with WAPO. It was so bad. At the very least, the WAPO one let me pause it, and it wouldn't like immediately jump to like the front of the line as soon as the pause was done. Unlike the CNN one. But like it was like every time I wanted, like I had to watch it on my phone, first of all. Feel bad for me. And I couldn't tweet about it because it was on my phone and my TV's going out, and Paige was watching stupid television on Netflix. The computer is hooked up to the TV because the TV's internal thing is broken because I can't watch. It's first world problems like 100%. But every single time I would like text you guys about the debate or something, I would go back to it. It would be like, hey, like you click play, and then I'd have to listen to a commercial, and then it would, put me back in the debate, and it was just like, I want to kill myself. This is what being like seriously suicidal feels like, because I just want to sit here and listen to them argue about stuff, and then nobody argued about anything. They were like super super nice to each other.
Yeah, it's so weird. It is honestly so weird to watch people like talk like that and interact like that.
I just can't believe
politicians creep me out a little bit.
Dude, Klobuchar is not healthy. I'm just saying.
It is not healthy.
No offense to her.
You know who's not healthy is
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah. She's very unhealthy.
It's because she's fucking a dinosaur.
She's still kicking.
For how long, though? That's the...
I don't know. Like they're very, very, very secretive with what's going on with her. She wasn't at like some court proceeding the other day. She had routine ER surgery.
What is her thoughts on...
I don't know what that means.
What is her thoughts on Donald Trump? Is she
I don't think she likes him.
Can't imagine she does.
Said before the election that she didn't like him, so that was pretty. That was a pretty nice thing to do. Was endorse a candidate. Yeah, no.
Here's my thing about the Supreme Court justice like position and like the lifelong position. Like it was like maybe a year and some change ago, probably less than that realistically. But I saw it was like an interview with her and somebody else. Maybe it was like 2 years ago. I don't know. I've been in this hole for a lot longer than I think. But anywhere between 1 and 3 years ago, I saw an interview with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she was talking to somebody about the justice system and some other stuff. And if I'm being honest, I could not understand a word she was saying. Simply based on the fact that it was just like through like her old person accent, you know, like, oh, well, you know, like not trying to be disrespectful, but it was like just through that alone, it was like, I cannot understand you. You look a little lost when you're talking. I'm sure that she's probably forgotten more about law than I'll ever know. And I believe this is exactly the interview that I was talking about. But I mean, I'm sure she's forgotten more about law than I'll ever know. But like,
yeah. Here we
to
go.
Take us almost to the place.
Almost.
But it's important to have an equal rights amendment in the Constitution, even if the 14th Amendment
this one
has been interpreted.
It was like it was like a smaller looking venue. It was like,
my answer
looked like
is
they were
why
like sitting
still
in
a
front of
proponent?
like a group of maybe like 10, 15 people.
Probably more recent or something. I don't know. It's
How old is she? 80 something? 87?
I think she's like in her mid. I think she's like 86, 87. Yeah.
Pretty sure she's 87. But yeah, I mean, like,
I don't know if it's confirmed she has cancer or if it's
86.
conspiracy.
86.
March 15th, 1933.
Is it confirmed that she has cancer, or is it a conspiracy theory that she has cancer?
Didn't she get like operated on for cancer not too terribly long ago?
Was that what it was? She has cancer?
I think she had it.
Had it. Okay.
It's probably back, realistically. I mean, she's 86. You know, I mean, like, not even trying. Once again, not trying to sound disrespectful, but it's just like after
2019, Healthline, Ruth Bader Ginsburg being treated for pancreatic cancer.
Yep,
that's a bad one. What's the survival rate on pancreatic cancer?
Probably not too high. That's what I'm saying. I bet you it's back. I bet you money it's back, or they never got rid of it in the first place. Trump's about to get another Supreme Court pick. They may, like, if she dies, okay, once again, no disrespect. If she dies in the next, like, couple of weeks, or even in the next couple of months, for that matter, before, let's say she dies before, or, like, right after the Democrats, like, right after Iowa, right? So they still don't have a Democratic candidate. The what are they called? The conventions still haven't happened. We're still like up in the air about who's going to get the nomination.
Sure. Yeah.
And she dies. Democrats are definitely going to block him from being able to like seat somebody.
So
They can't.
American Cancer Society says that for all stages of pancreatic cancer, combined. The 1-year relative survival rate is 20%, and the 5-year rate is 7% for pancreatic cancer.
Jeez. Well, didn't the Republicans kind of do something like that for the what's his name's appointment? The one that Gorsuch kind of fucking came in and snagged.
Yes, they did. And you know what the difference is? Republicans had the Senate then, and the Democrats don't have the Senate now. That's the difference.
That is a very big difference. That's a very big difference.
Here's a hot take.
Can they? What's it called? Can they filibuster it?
Not really.
I don't think anybody would think they'd die. I think before.
No. They've already confirmed 2 for him. They already shoved Kavanaugh up their fucking ass. Like what the fuck else are they gonna they're gonna not do that again? They've done it twice already.
Well, some of the people that
it's the same people.
Obviously, I know you can't take this. You take it with a grain of salt, but like some of the people that I've seen Twitter recommend, I'm just like some of those district judges. I'm just like, oh God, please don't make that person a Supreme Court justice. Because I could see Trump making somebody a Supreme Court justice just because they said some like super nice things about him. Just like
the hot rumor is it's Amy Conan Barrett. That's the hot rumor. Some lady. I don't know. I haven't heard anything bad about her.
If the government shut down, can they vote in a new Supreme Court justice?
I don't know. That's a good question. But
I bet you if it's not how it works,
they can't, that'd be fun.
I guarantee you they shut it down.
Yeah, that would be legit. That would be a legit no shit move from the Democrats.
I could see it, dude, because it's just like
that's such a nuclear option.
3 justices. When was the last time a president got 3 justices? That's so many justices. Just you shaped the Supreme Court for decades. Like, how old is Kavanaugh? 50 something? Maybe late 40s.
Yeah, he's like in his 50s. He's like dad age.
Yeah, he's got to be like 51, 53, something like that. Like, that dude's going to be there for potentially another 30 years.
Yes. And from someone who subscribes to the philosophy of like conservatism and like libertarianism and shit, it's such a fucking big dick power move.
Oh my God.
Into the courts.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And
just like I am the end, like the line ends here.
Yeah.
The law goes not beyond me. If I say that it does not go, it does not go. If it's in question, that it shouldn't go, I guess. And like we rule that.
There's a process to get it there.
Yeah, obviously.
But we have a nice system where there is a process to get to someone like that.
I just don't like the lifetime appointment because you're left with stuff like this at the end of that 30-year term.
I love it. It's such a big fucking middle finger.
Well, like, did you ever see that? Did you ever see
Mitch McConnell held up so many fucking judges in the last bit of Obama's term? The Republicans won the Senate 2 years before, and he held up so many judge positions, and I think they passed maybe a few that were very like middle of the road that Obama appointed. But they held up a shitload of judge positions, including the Supreme Court seat. It wasn't just the Supreme Court seat, and it was a big fucking political gamble on this 2016 election. That's what he did. He did that because he believed that their judges were wrong and his judges were right.
Naturally, I mean, like I get it.
I mean, that's what people think.
It's just. It's such a like when I literally just watch
and
I see like
he won.
Charlie makes some compelling points for a 2-party system, but like for me, it always just boils down to these hardcore partisan politics.
It does, but all right, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's zoom out a little bit and look at like. There's various imperfect ways to organize a society, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's too far reactionary slider, and there's too much of a gridlock slider, and that's where the governments exist, right? Like a absolute monarch is too reactionary, you know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
you know you get into you get into wars and shit. It's personal. Like there's no checks and balances. It's just one person
Mhm.
telling everyone what to do.
Right.
It's volatile. And too much gridlock is like nothing gets done and it fails and it's bureaucracy mess.
Right.
And inefficient.
Right.
Like you have the scale of governments.
I mean, like I get where, you know, like it helps keep like the power balance like
Yeah. In
in check.
Mhm.
I get where all the benefits come from, but like I said, it's just like when I watch what's going on in the House, like right now, it's like, why is Donald Trump about to get impeached in the House? Because there's enough people in the House that don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no matter, and it looks like, no matter how much evidence you can compile to say, this is not what is happening, it's just like, doesn't matter. Still going to vote to move forward with this because I think that he's guilty and we need to put this to trial. It's just like, first of all, even if every senator in the Senate thought the exact same thing about every single Democrat in the House, you know, like thought the exact same thing about Trump that all the Democrats in the House think about Trump, they still wouldn't vote to impeach him because that would be guaranteeing a Democrat win in 2020. So I mean, because it would just be like, oh, like it would be like, look at the Republican Party, you know what I mean? Like it's like the Republicans in the Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate, voted to get rid of the Republican president.
If you go back to the 2018 election, Trump exclusively did rallies leading up to that election for only senators. Very, very, very few, if any, House members. He specifically targeted senators because he wanted to ram as many, because they approve judges. The House doesn't approve judges at all. So they wanted to ram through as many of the judges as possible. They're like above 200 now. They flipped 3 circuits. We have, I believe, 9 circuits, 9 court circuits, 9 federal court circuits, and those are a step down below the Supreme Court.
Yeah, no, I mean, like they
rule over several states.
They move Kavanaugh up. They get to basically they fill the Supreme Court justice spot, and then they get Kavanaugh's old spot.
Yeah, so there's 200. There's 200 new judges that Trump put there in that system. And it's in terms of Republican appointed or Democrat appointed majority in the circuits, in the individual circuits, they've flipped 3 of them and are about to flip a 4th. Like what he's done to the judicial system. I mean, you can say like, "Oh, that's fucking bullshit." Like that's okay, that's an opinion, but like you can't ignore the fact that's what's happened. That is what's happened already, and it's flown under the radar, I think.
There's a lot of super big things that manage to fly under the radar just because the hate for him is so big.
He has shaped like an entire branch of government for a generation.
No, I know. It's crazy to think about. It really is because...
And if you take the hot take that judges are philosophers of law and they subscribe to their philosophies and how the law should be interpreted...
Right.
You know,
I was about to
that's
say
like ancient Athens philosophers.
Well, I mean, like there's a lot of I listen to some YouTube lawyers and whatnot, and that's one of the main things that you always hear from lawyers that, you know, like the ones that I listen to at the very least. And there's always like, you know, like a judge at any point in time could like, you know, butt fuck your whole situation. Just because, you know, like they don't like the way that you're talking, they don't like the way that, you know, like you're dressed, they don't like the way that, you know, like you're acting in their courtroom. And it's obviously a big power trip move, but definitely something to keep in mind when it's like, oh, well, you know, I got to play the rules of this guy as well, because... You know, like especially when they're the ones that are doing like the final verdict. You know, like if it's not a verdict by jury, it's a verdict by judge, then it's definitely like more of an interpretation on the judge's part.
Yeah. You know what's incredible though to like really like think about? One of our rights is that you have the right to a lawyer, an attorney to defend you. Like back then they were like, yeah, that's fucking bullshit. Everyone's gonna get a professional person to help them fight the system, guaranteed, and you have to pay for it. From the get go, they're like, this is that important, and I think that's the best check you can do against,
because it was written by lawyers.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I know exactly how convoluted and ridiculous this shit that we're writing down is. So it's not going to be something that, you know, because like imagine like when, because you know, like you obviously you read like stuff like the Bill of Rights and whatnot, and you think, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this, you know, like this, you know, like this, you know, like this is very evident, you know, like this is proclaiming these things as the rights of, you know, like every American. But it's like there's obviously a whole bunch of inherent rules that came with society as well. You know, like the rules that have been just random, you know, like societal rules that have been being practiced for years and years and years. It's not like you came to America and was just like, all right, we're scrapping literally every single law that we had before and we're starting from scratch. You know, like this is like the law. Western law for the most part, you know, like I'm just going to call it that just because it's something that obviously no matter where you go, if there's Western culture there, it's pretty much going to be like the same-ish, depending. Mm-hmm. But, you know, like this idea has been something that's like thousands of years in the making, where it's just like, you know, like, oh, this worked for a while and then cultural shift, and so we had to scrap it, and this worked for a while. So having somebody who's, you know, main job is to interpret what is, you know, like what the law means today, you know, how it, you know, is moved to this, you know, like that's important, you know, like, and that's one of the main, that's another thing that I'm against, like the lifetime appointee stuff from, because it's like sometimes, you know, like I'm not saying that it's always good to have like forced cultural change and stuff, but sometimes, you know, like cultural change happens and like laws need to be revisited.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, old guard people who are firm believers in, you know, like the way out type situation, you know, like are going to present major obstacles to that happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, sometimes change is obviously
people that are like that, though.
Of course. There are always going to be people like
there's
that.
There's people that are like that, and they're going to vote for people that are like them, and that's a check. Because what if you're wrong?
That's true.
What if you're
wrong?
Yeah,
no, that's very true. That's you know, very true.
What if you're wrong and the generation after you agrees with us?
That's very true.
You know, I don't know. It's all. I think there's no perfect system to organize people, but I think like the American one is good at it. Like, there's enough checks against it to where it's pretty good if it's run right, and if shit goes south, it's pretty good at recovering. Yeah. Like, you know, like we can amend the Constitution. There's a couple ways to do that. There's a nuclear option that literally the people, us, can hold conventions and ratify it ourselves. I don't know all the rules about it, but I
was gonna say it probably requires a shit ton of people.
It does. It's unreal, but I think it's like a majority in every state.
That's nuts. That would be a nuts
But
thing.
It's a nuclear option.
What kind of even amendment would even get something like that, I would wonder?
I don't know. So like probably it would be like the government's doing some bullshit and everyone's fucking fed up and they're like, pew.
I think that they really try to stay away from constitutional amendments.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Just because like it would be one of the most controversial things, I think, that would happen in like recent generations if it was just like, you know, like if it's not one of those things that like, you know, everybody kind of agrees where it's just like, oh, you know, that should have been there for years, you know, like one of those like weird, you know, like when they do prohibition and they take prohibition off.
What if term 2 Trump butt fucks Silicon Valley with this constitutional amendment that you own your own digital data? It is your possession.
Can he do that?
They can propose it. It can be if he gets a landslide in Congress. I think you have to have a 2/3 majority in both or something like that. I don't know. What's like the political way to amend the Constitution? Because there's three different ways.
Two-thirds majority in both the House and the Senate.
That's what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there exists in the multiverse theory, there exists a universe in which he wins a landslide in 2020. And in that universe, he can amend the Constitution if they all agree to do it. And Silicon Valley's been pissing off everyone that's super right. So I could see the motive. I don't think it would be a big, giant, big dick move. Trump is all about big, giant, big dick moves. That's kind of his thing.
Nice. Got 8 retweets.
I think he's all about
big, giant, big
saying he's going to make big, giant, big dick moves to get a reaction out of people. So, and then actually act upon that reaction.
I still think that, like, I would like to see a constitutional amendment for, you know, would it have to be a constitutional amendment? I just want to see term limits on senators.
I'd love that too.
I'm sick of these dudes being in there for like 60 years. Like, I was listening to that.
Like, how did that happen? Like, how did, when they were writing, you know, putting together the Constitution, did they not think, like, yeah, people just doing this as a job for their whole life might be a bad thing?
I listened to somebody grilling Kavanaugh, one of those old dudes, and he was like, talking to him, he's like, hey, Mr. Kavanaugh, I've been on this committee for upwards of 45 years. I'm like, 45 years? What? You have been a senator for 45 years. Get the shit out of here, dude. Like, why is that an option?